Welcome back to Spooky Story Time, where I'm just gonna pick a place on my inbox, read a story, click next, read a story, click next. We're doing these videos because I literally have thousands of your weird, unexplainable experiences in my inbox, and I'm trying to get through as many as I possibly can. I don't know if they're gonna be long, I don't know if they're gonna be short, I don't know if they're gonna be good, I don't know if they're gonna make any sense, but we're just gonna read them and we're gonna see what we get. What's up, glitches? I'm Auntie Matrix, and I read your weird, unexplainable stories about things like glitches in the Matrix, dreams, aliens, and the paranormal. All the stories that I read are real experiences that these people have had and send into me. Our motto in this community is we believe you. If you want to join our glitch community on Discord, if you want to join in on the lives, if you want to get some anti-Matrix merch or a copy of my book, A Glitch in the Matrix, all of those links are in the description below. But right now it's time to get started, so sit back, grab a snack, and let's get weird! Hi, Auntie. Hi! As everyone, I love your show and found your page a while back when you were still counting the stories and not reading the subject name, lol. Back in January of 2021, my best friend Megan passed away unexpectedly, and her death took a huge toll on my life. I'm so sorry. It's been 3 years, and I'm still trying to find ways to cope with the loss. Megan loved cats, and December of 2023, my girlfriend and I got a kitten, who her aunt was going to get for herself, but when she found out we wanted a kitten, she insisted that we have her. We named her Chandler Bing to memorialize Matthew Perry, and she has been the first thing to help me feel the most healed in my grieving journey. She follows me around the whole house and never leaves my side, even when my girlfriend is home. Fast forward to today, May 13th, and I'm in the bathroom touching up my eyebrows, and the Chandler, of course, is sitting on the floor next to me sleeping. I stop randomly and I look at her and I think about how much I needed her and how, even though she's just a cat, she does not realize how much she is healing me. Then for some reason, I just felt as if Chandler was sent by Megan to help me during my grieving process. So out of random curiosity, I looked at Chandler and called her name. She stayed asleep and didn't open her eyes. I then said, Chandler Bing, dragging both names out, and she still didn't open her eyes. I then decided to say, Megan, and she opened her eyes a bit. But I figured that was due to her hearing me talk to her 3 times now. So then I went back to doing my eyebrows while Chandler went back to sleep, and I decided to try again. I said, Chandler, nothing. Then I said, Megan, and she slightly opened her eyes and then closed them. I again said Chandler and nothing. So then I said, Megan Elizabeth, and she opened them slightly again, this time more than the last, and then closed them. Chandler Bing, again, nothing. Megan Elizabeth, last name, and her eyes shot open. Now I have my cat staring at me with wide opened big eyes and then staring behind me as if something was there. And then her eyes kept moving around and around the room. I try to keep up and follow where her eyes are looking, thinking she is probably just sees a bug, and I swear I see no bug, nothing, every place where she was looking. So then I stare at her and she stares at me, and I said, Megan. At this point, I was starting to get freaked out. Like, was my best friend's spirit in the room with me and my cat could see her? So then I began to tear up, not knowing how to feel. We're both staring at each other and she makes a snarl and then her eyes move elsewhere. I look where she's looking and I finally see a mosquito. But Auntie, when I tell you that mosquito was not there the entire time I kept looking, I mean it. So now this whole thing has me wondering, did I just not see the mosquito at all from the beginning? Or was my best friend's spirit around and she could tell I wasn't ready for her spirit to make her presence known yet, so she disguised herself as a mosquito? I don't know, this thing just has me very confused and it could just be very ironic timing. Let me know what you think. So the mosquito could very well have just been in the room and you didn't see the mosquito, so I'm not sure about that part of it, but I do think it is very interesting that you tested this many times and every time you said Chandler, she didn't look, but then when you said Megan, she did look. Is it possible for someone's spirit to reincarnate or be in an animal in some way? I have no idea, to be quite honest with you, but that would be really cool if she was hanging around with you as the cat. Then the cat was looking around, so maybe it was looking at her spirit or maybe it was a mosquito. I'm not really sure, but either way, I feel like the cat definitely was sent to you to help you heal, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Dear Auntie Matrix, hi! I love your content because it brings me peace of mind when weird things happen, knowing I am not the only one experiencing them. Yes, that's what it's there for. It makes me happy that you feel that way. I have a lot of small glitches that happened during my life, but I want to share 2 recent ones, one of my husband's and one of mine. Number 1, my husband's glitch. One day, a couple of months ago, my husband, 33, male plastic surgeon, doesn't believe in glitches, was waiting for the bus near our home. Next to him was a young boy, maybe around 17 years old, staring at him and standing very close. The boy followed him there from the traffic lights nearby. He just assumed they were going in the same direction, so he didn't mind him. However, once in the bus station, my husband felt a bit bothered, as there was the usual crowd of people waiting for their bus, but they were keeping a decent distance between each other, all of them but the boy, who was standing very close and was staring insistently at my husband. Once the bus arrived, my husband hopped in, as well as the young boy. There was no one else in that particular bus. It is not uncommon in our region, but my husband and that boy, who decided he would sit right in front of my husband. O felt bothered because he hates when someone is breathing in his air unnecessarily. There were so many empty seats where the boy could sit. Standing face to face, the boy kept staring at O, which he found extra weird because nowadays he should have stared into his phone or at least look out the window instead of making someone uncomfortable like that. So my husband, visibly upset, asked him, "Why are you staring at me? Do we know each other?" The moment O finished his question, the young boy evaporated into thin air just in front of him. He disappeared as if he never existed, leaving O shaking of fear. He called me right afterwards while still being on the bus, shaking and creeped out, and to this day, he feels the chills when remembering that event. What do you think? My opinion, the boy was from a parallel universe and probably just as baffled as my husband from the entire situation. Number 2, my recent glitch. One evening about a month ago, I was getting ready to bottle feed my 5-month-old at the time daughter. For context, I should mention, she had bottle feeding aversion and was required by the pediatrician to keep a very detailed journal for her, when and what she was doing during the day with timestamps for meals, playtime, naps, activities, behavior, etc. Right when I picked my daughter up to get her to our feeding spot, my mother started to call me. I wanted to answer. She was calling me because she didn't pick up when I called her earlier in the day, but didn't because if I was to talk on the phone, then my daughter wouldn't eat due to the eating disorder that she had at the time. Then my mother texted me on my WhatsApp. "I couldn't pick up when you called me earlier. I was in the garden." I saw the message via notifications when feeding my daughter. I clearly saw it a few times, along with the missed call and other notifications that I had, but couldn't reply to her as my hands were busy with my daughter. Then, the scariest moment of my life happened. My daughter choked on milk so bad that she lost consciousness. Oh my God. She choked frequently, but never so bad before. I turned her upside down with face down and started to give her first aid, but she was not responding. Her eyes were closed. The scariest moment of my life, I started to yell, calling my husband who was in our kitchen talking on the phone. He rushed in and bent down to see her face, and he started to laugh. "Look, she's smiling." She was indeed smiling at him. I don't understand how she suddenly regained consciousness and felt better without coughing the milk out. Me, on the other side, was still a trembling mess. After putting her to sleep, I grabbed my phone to reply to my mom's message. I wanted to reply directly from notifications, but couldn't find it. I kept scrolling through them, but there was no WhatsApp notification from anybody. I thought maybe I opened it by mistake and it made the notification disappear, so I entered my WhatsApp chat with my mom, but no message there either. Her last activity appeared to be 4:15 p.m., while the message I clearly saw from her was after 6 p.m. I could not believe it, so I still thought that there should be a WhatsApp error. I decided to play dumb and text her, "Hey, what are you doing?" She then replied, "I couldn't pick up earlier when you called me. I was in the kitchen." She said garden in the text that disappeared. My brain stopped braining after reading that. All I could think was, what had happened? Did I switch universes? And if so, is my daughter safe in the other universe? Was it a weird glitch? The text I had from my mother disappeared after my daughter's accident. What do you guys think? Oh my God. Okay, these were both crazy. First of all, for the first one with your husband, I do agree with you that I think maybe that was just like a timeline overlap. He was maybe seeing another alternate timeline when there's a little boy on the same route as him. I wonder, did it look like him when he was little? That was like one of my first things. I wonder if that's like him from a past timeline and they're both going on the bus. I don't know. Anyway, but that's definitely, I agree with you on the first one. The second one, this one is also crazy. First of all, as a mom, that is terrifying. It does sound like you switched to another timeline, especially because that message was gone and your mom was doing something different. But why? I need to know what you guys think in the comments. Please let me know. And thank you so much for sharing your stories. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Just wanted to reach out with a couple of my stories. I had tried before, but I think it got lost in the flood of other emails. It probably did, friend. Not that I get lost, but there's a lot of emails. I do have thousands of emails, which is why we're making these videos. Number 1, my house is like mildly haunted, I guess I'd say. The 2 ghosts that are around don't seem to mean my parents or I any harm, but they seem to want our attention sometimes and don't seem to love when we have overnight guests. They show up most often when my nieces and nephews sleep over or when someone is house sitting. But firstly, I should explain how I first became aware of them. I went to a Catholic high school, and for my graduation, my parents gave me a beautiful, antique, hand-etched silver cross pendant. They gave it to me on a chain, but the chain didn't originally go with the necklace. About a year or 2 after my graduation, I was leaving for work and I decided to wear the cross. I was wearing a turtleneck sweater, and when I turned the chain to snap the clasp, it got caught on the neck of the sweater, and I lost hold of both ends of the chain. When I grabbed them again, I snapped the clasp and turned the chain so the cross should have been at the front of my throat, but it was gone. I looked all over for it and even got undressed again to make sure it wasn't caught on my clothes somewhere, but it was just disappeared. Since then, I've rearranged the furniture in my room and still it has never turned up. Number 2, similar to the above, don't remember exactly when this was, but my parents had gone on a cruise and brought me back a pair of tanzanite stud earrings. I was going somewhere and I went to put the earrings in and dropped one of them, and it was just like the cross, like it just disappeared. Except in this case, I saw right where it fell, and I still couldn't find it. Similar thing happened with a pair of sapphire stud earrings my parents gave me. Anyone else see a pattern? LOL. But I don't know exactly when/where I lost that one, so it may not have been a glitch, but still very weird. Number 3, not a glitch, more paranormal. When I was growing up, my family had a brother/sister lab mix pair of dogs named Bellinger and Bailey. They were almost certainly taken away from their mother too early and nearly died as young pups, and so became extremely attached to my parents and siblings and I. After they died, my parents and I frequently heard them walking around the house, the jingle of their collars, etc. It was 4 years before we got new puppies, Annie and Tremin. When our puppies were still less than a year old, I remember giving them treats, and they were both in front of me, and I very clearly felt a wet nose nudge my hand from the side, nowhere near where Annie and Tremin were. I also had visitation dreams from both Bellinger and Bailey about a month after their deaths, while I've never had one from a person who's died. Number 4, this one was more recent, maybe 5-ish years ago. I made a very rare decision to buy something from a catalog. It was a personalized desk nameplate for my dad that had his name and Chief Troublemaker underneath. He's the director of a small therapy agency and has almost no filter, plus a history of pranking coworkers, so I figured everyone would get a laugh out of it. I ordered one other non-personalized thing with the nameplate. The non-personalized item came first, and out of curiosity, I decided to check on the nameplate. When I did, I saw that the nameplate was not on the order. This was close to when I needed the gift, so I panicked and reordered the nameplate. I don't know what the fuck happened, but I ended up with 2 personalized nameplates, and I still don't know why. I think the moral of this story, or of one of these stories, is don't have your parents buy you jewelry anymore. That's crazy that stuff just kept disappearing. Maybe you have a little portal in your house and everything's disappearing, or maybe you have house elves. Have you tried to ask your house elves to bring them back? Or have you tried to ask, who is it? Is it, who's the saint of lost things? Alexa, who's the saint of lost items? St. Anthony. It's St. Anthony. I thought it was St. Anthony. Did you ask St. Anthony for help? You should try that. I love that you had dreams with your dogs and that they're still around with you. And the nameplate one is pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think of these in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your stories. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Hope you are well. I love your videos. Even though I get paranoid, I regularly watch them. The place I live in, I get to see your videos early in the morning as they are uploaded. Anyway, I have one incident which I would like to share, which cannot be explained in any way by any kind of scientific explanation. One random day, I was sleeping at night, a normal night, sleeping normally, and I always sleep with my sister beside me since childhood. I'm a grown adult now and I sleep alone, but my entire childhood I slept with her. So whatever happened that I'm going to explain now happened only to me and not to her. I just woke up in the middle of the night from a bad dream/nightmare. Nightmares are common to me, so I didn't think much about it until I felt a strong pain in my lower abdomen region, the place where you get period cramps in. Then the pain moved upwards in my stomach as if I had gas stuck in my stomach. Now, these are normal stuff, and I assumed I had stomach issues or I would have used the restroom. I was confused. All the time I was thinking, it's my stomach. Then this pain slowly moves upwards in my body. Every time it moves, it's paining differently. I hope this makes sense. After my stomach, it's my heart and then my lungs. My heart was paining as if it was going to blast, and my heartbeat goes up. I start panicking. Then my lungs hurt. I feel as if my lungs are pressed or some heavy force is sitting on my lungs so that I can't breathe comfortably. A point to note is that I can move and sit up and lie down, yet I feel these forces happening. Then this pain goes up again to my throat, and I feel like I'm strangled. By this time, I assumed that the pain is moving and would eventually move upwards. After my neck comes my head. I had a terrible migraine-like headache, and then the pain goes away. What just happened? I couldn't understand. I'm sure the entire thing lasted 5 minutes. I keep looking at my sister throughout this, and she casually wakes up using her phone, probably watching a TV show or browsing social media. If I would tell her, she would definitely scream and panic and not let both of us sleep for weeks, so I didn't tell her. But until now, I have no proper explanation or conclusion of what happened to me. This happened in December of 2019. If there was no pain, my first idea was a Kundalini awakening situation where you're feeling the energy move up your spine, because that's normally what happens, right? I mean, I've never had one myself, but as I hear stories of them, that the energy is like moving all the way up your spine, and then that's also accompanied with like crazy visuals or other stuff that happens, and you didn't have any of that stuff happen, and yours was painful, so that cannot have been it. So I have no idea what that could have been. That's really weird. I need to know, does anyone else in the comments know? Do you guys have any ideas? Please let me know. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi. I recently started following you and wanted to get your opinion on my weird family trait. My mom and my daughter are self-proclaimed mediums. By that, I mean they are regularly contacted by someone or something that I can't see. They don't seem to have control over who, when, or where this happens. I completely believe them, but it must have skipped a generation because I have none of that, and I'm just fine with it, to be honest. It seems like an intrusion into their lives whenever it happens. I have my own drama without getting involved in some other being's problems, you know? But I have had weird experiences around both of them. I don't know if it's some ability that they have only with me or if I have something too. I'll give you a few examples. First, I was at a grocery store with my mother when I was in college. I was in front of the cart, putting our groceries on the belt so the cashier could scan them. My mom was behind the cart. There was clearly some sort of dispute between the customer and the cashier at the next register over. I heard, plain as day, my mom complaining loudly about the rude customer. I told my mom to keep her voice down so the customer's anger wouldn't be directed at her. She looked at me bewildered and said she hadn't said anything, but was seriously thinking about it. The next time was at a grocery store again, but this time with my daughter, who was around 10. It was a quick late night run for a couple of things. Going through the aisles, I saw a girl who used to live near me in elementary school. As I passed her, I thought about saying hi to her. I decided against it because I thought that she might not recognize me, and we weren't ever really that close. So we walked past her. As we entered the next aisle, my daughter asked me who that lady was that I just said hi to. I know for sure that I didn't. Then again, my daughter, around 15 this time, and I were in the kitchen doing our own things quietly. I heard her ask me about some bracelets that she had seen and wanted, but she trailed off, and I didn't catch the end of her sentence. I asked her to repeat that. She was confused and said, "Repeat what?" I asked her to repeat the last part of what she was saying about the bracelets. She, now 20, still swears she had said nothing. I sometimes question my sanity when these things happen. If my mother, daughter, and I really can hear each other's thoughts, it seems so random and useless. Have you heard of this before? Thanks for what you do and for believing. Tabitha, yes, my real name. Mom's not Samantha, though, LOL. I 100% think that you guys are speaking telepathically to each other. I think that we all have the ability to do it, especially with these, was it the telepathy tapes or whatever? I haven't actually watched them or heard them yet, but about all the autistic children who can communicate telepathically, like with their parents and stuff. I definitely think that we all have the ability to do it, and maybe we just don't remember how. Maybe because you guys are connected, because your family, your soul family, maybe it's easier for you to do that around each other. Maybe you're all a kind of open in that way. I feel like maybe it's something that you would really need to like practice and hone in on and develop with each other, with yourselves and with each other, to maybe do it more than just randomly. But I absolutely believe that that's a thing, and that's a really cool. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie. Hi. I love your content. I love you. I have a couple of short stories about encounters with the spiritual world, but this is crazy. Please keep anonymous, as I was smoking in the video and I don't want my parents or kids to somehow find out, LOL. At first I thought shooting star. It was a bright white with gold sparks, but more like sparkles, glitter even, shooting out of the back, but moving slowly towards the earth. Then the bright white light leading the UFO started blinking, as you can see through the smoke. It isn't the smoke interfering with the lightning. I was watching it with my eyes. The closer it got, the more the bright white light blinked. I sat there for a few minutes listening for an explosion or shake or some sign. It may have, heaven forbid, been something dangerous. Again, sorry for the smoke, and what do you and all of my fellow believer friends think? Thanks for listening and hopefully sharing. XO Smokey Jones. Here's the video. Okay, hold on. There's a video. Let's download it. Oh, it is glittery. It looks like a glittery, blinking shooting star going like straight for the earth. What is that? What was that, you guys? Has anybody ever seen anything like that? Let me know in the comments if you have like a rational explanation, or if you have another idea of maybe what that could be, or if you've seen something like that. That was a pretty cool video. Thank you so much for sharing. Hi, Auntie. Hi. I've been your follower on Instagram from the time you numbered your stories, and it was all in low double digits then. I immediately got hooked up and now follow you on YouTube as well. Sorry, I'm not on TikTok. No worries. Thank you so much for watching. I unfortunately rarely can catch lives, but always watch the recordings. I know you have thousands of stories in your inbox, but hope you can get to mine sometime, even though it's not as crazy as some of your stories. So being always interested in all of these unexplainable stories, I have never experienced anything supernatural myself, besides maybe some unharmful ghosts that my dog barks at, staring at the corner, or stuff going missing and reappearing, but nothing too crazy. Until I remembered something from my teenage years that I can only explain as a weird premonition dream. I have never been sensitive and never ever had premonition dreams before or after that. So now on to the story. I was a 14-year-old girl living with her parents and a brother in a small town in the middle of nowhere in Russia. We lived in a 3-bedroom apartment with a small front yard and a playground, a small soccer field / ice skating rink, and parking area for the residents in the front. Pretty typical setup for Soviet Union, where 4 apartment buildings forming a square sharing this big yard in the middle. The windows of our living room and kitchen were looking out to this front yard, while all 3-bedroom windows were on the opposite side of the building, facing the kindergarten / daycare building about 200 feet away. So one night, I'm having a dream. I'm home and I'm scared that something bad is going to happen. I run to the kitchen window and see a plane crashing in our front yard. I see the explosion and playground and soccer field on fire. My building seems standing still, like it wasn't affected by the explosion, but I'm terrified and I don't know what to do. I run to my bedroom and see another plane crashing on the daycare building on the other side of the building. I don't remember if I woke up after that or if there was anything else to dream, and I would just brush it off as a weird dream, if not the world events shortly after. I had this dream on September 10th, 2001. So I don't know what it was, just a weird dream or a premonition of 9/11 terrorist attack. And if it was, why would it come to a random teenage girl in Siberia who has never before or after experienced anything like that? What do you think? Wow, I think that is pretty crazy, and it does seem like you had a premonition dream. You're right, though. I'm not sure why it would come to you in another country, but maybe it was just, like I've said before, if you are having premonitions or starting to have premonition dreams, sometimes you are just being like tested by spirit. They'll normally give you smaller things to practice. Not that this is a small thing. 9/11 was not a small thing, but for you far away, it didn't directly affect you. But maybe this was one to really show you hey, yes, you are having premonitions. But I find it interesting that you haven't had one since then. So I'm not really sure. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments. Do you think this was a premonition? And if so, why? Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I want to know what you think about my story. It's a little longer because I added a small side story. I'm a big believer in the supernatural, and here's one of the reasons why. When I was younger, like 7 to 8, my twin sister and I lived with my dad, grandmother, and great-grandmother every Wednesday or Thursday and every other weekend. I know it's an odd arrangement, but my twin and I bounced from dads to moms and grew up with this schedule, so it was normal to us. Well, at my grandmother's house, my twin sister and I shared a room with our great-grandmother. It was a pretty big room, so it didn't feel crowded. The way the room was set up, my bed was in the far corner away from the door. It was a long room. And one night, I rolled over to face the door. We would keep the door open and the hallway light on. And standing in the room, right in front of our door, was a woman. She looked Native American with long black hair that covered her face, and she wore what looked like a white wedding dress. I froze, startled, as nobody was awake. She didn't say or do anything, just stared at me, so I did what most kids do and I rolled over to face the wall, LOL. I saw her a few times after that, just watching me. I never felt threatened or truly scared. Years pass and I get a half-sister on dad's side. More time passes and I have a typical hi, good morning, how are you conversation at around 3 a.m. with a male shadow figure at work. I'm active duty Navy and I knew it was a male due to the height and build, but nobody was supposed to be on that craft as it was no longer operational and we were gutting it during the day. It had no power, so I couldn't actually see the person. When I moved my flashlight to the doorway where I saw the shadow, the male was gone. That only took me seconds to do and it's impossible to move that quickly and not make a noise on those crafts. So I start watching Sam and Colby, love them, and eventually, months later, I go to my grandmother's house for a visit. She lived in the same house, and I mentioned the Native American woman. I wish I was joking, but my grandmother told me she too saw this woman only weeks before. Not only did she see her, but so did my half-sister and my twin. Each of us saw her at different times and never mentioned it to anyone else. My grandmother told me how she had saw her and how she used to look exactly like I described when she was my age, 24 at the time. My grandmother told me how she saw her and how she used to look exactly like I described when she was my age, 24 at the time. The weird thing is she's only been seen by the women on my dad's side. None of the male family members have seen her. I wonder, she kind of sounds like a protective spirit, like an ancestor or someone or a guide or someone like there around to be with you, to protect you, to help guide you. That's the vibe that I'm getting. I don't know if that's the vibe that you got in the moment, but that's the vibe that I'm getting. Maybe she is part of your soul family and she's an ancestor for all of you. And so she was there. She's there protecting and guiding. That's my guess. I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I love your content and I've been listening since your stories were labeled and in the single digits. Oh my God, this is like the third person that has said this. That's actually pretty crazy. You're an OG. To be honest, I was always kind of speculative when you would receive stories from longtime listeners experiencing their first ever glitch. I don't know, I guess it just made me think they're fabricating just to submit something to this page that they love. But then it happened to me. I think I died driving home from work the other night. October 18th, 2024, under a pretty intense full moon around 7:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I was driving home from work and the car in front of me hit their brakes. At first, I thought they were just one of those drivers that tapped their brake every time they blinked, but then they started to slow down so much they almost full-on stopped in the second lane of the highway. I finally started to slam on my brakes instead of slow down I was doing before when I needed to swerve into the other lane just to avoid the car in front of me. Turns out there was a piece of furniture, maybe a dresser, in the middle of the lanes on the highway, right in front of me. I could see the other car coming right towards me, swerving in a way where I thought a crash was imminent. I had to either run over this cabinet or get T-boned by the other lane who was also swerving because of the chaos. So I ran over half of it. Thankfully, it was like cheap Target furniture, and I ended up not hitting anyone, and there so far looks like no damage was done to my car. I thought I would at least get a flat. I can still see the car from the other lane driving right in my direction as I tried to swerve. Then all of a sudden, everything was fine. I'm still kind of in shock from this experience I had the other day. I felt like my life or time flashed in front of my eyes. It real time almost felt like my mind was seeing everything at once, but in slow motion. If regular perception is like swimming through water, then this felt like dragging through the mud. Have you noticed anything different in your life since the accident happened or since the accident didn't happen? That's my first question, because if you're noticing things are different, then you definitely switch timelines, but you may not always notice anything is different. If you did have a quantum immortality incident and you did die and hop into an alternate very close timeline, you may not even notice. Most people don't. I can't believe though that like you're okay, your car's okay, everything's okay. It's very possible it happened. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. I want to share my glitch in the Matrix or time travel or premonition story. It's short and it happened this morning, but it was so strange that I feel like I just have to tell someone. I was fixing up with my girlfriend and we were both getting ready for work. Before the story continues, I just want to say that I commute to work and recently switched stations for more convenience, even if it means I have to pay a higher fare. My girlfriend, who was standing in front of me, asked, "Hey, how much is the fare for the new station that you go to?" I immediately answered loudly and cheerfully, "$45." I was looking down while this happened, fixing my shoes. The moment I looked up at her face, I felt like I was exiting a bubble, or something clicked back into place inside my brain. She then asked in the same tone, with the same exact words, "Hey, how much is the fare at the new station you go to?" I felt frustrated, but more so confused. I couldn't understand why she asked me the same question. I just clearly answered 2 seconds ago. So I answered again, now in a hurried tone, "$45. She noticed my frustration. "Hey, I was just asking because I wanted to know." Her defensive tone confused me more. I thought she would have understood that I'm frustrated she asked me twice, or that she would have said that she didn't hear me the first time. I calmly said, "You asked me once and I already answered, then you asked again right after I said 45, so I got confused. Why did you ask me twice?" She had a confused look on her face when she replied, "I don't remember asking you twice." I told her, "Yes, you did. You asked right after I answered." At this point, we were two confused and overstimulated girls running late, so we decided to leave the house and try to make sense of it on our way to work. My phone buzzed as I was walking to the station, and I got a text from her saying that she was sorry if she irritated me and that she forgot she already asked me once. She said she could have sworn she only asked me once and has no recollection of asking twice. I apologized for getting easily frustrated by the situation and reassured her that I wasn't mad. I then told her the whole thing from my perspective so that she could have a better view of what was happening to me. I got to the part where she asked for the second time. I explained that the repeated question led me to say 45 for the second time in an agitated manner. She replied, "Baby, that was the first time you said 45. I was already getting chills at this point because I had assumed that she only probably didn't hear me clearly when I answered. Turns out in her perspective, I haven't said anything at all right before I answered in a seemingly irritated tone. It was all so weird. She was right in front of me, so she couldn't have missed me answering the question. But also, she doesn't even recall asking me twice. In her point of view, she only asked once, and I answered in a frustrated tone. In my point of view, she asked me, I answered, and then I got frustrated because she asked again right after I clearly answered the question. We were experiencing two different things at the same time, and honestly, I don't know what to make of it. She thinks I time traveled, and my first thought was to ask myself if I saw the brief future and just thought it was already happening to me when it was just about to happen, especially when I remember the moment I looked at her face and something clicked in my brain. It was like someone pushed a reset button. If you or your followers have any insight or theories on this or any similar stories, I would love to hear it if this story ever gets posted on your social media. Please stay safe and make good choices. Godspeed, Auntie Matrix. Okay, so the bubble popping sensation that you experienced, I have heard in other stories of either quantum immortality, where they died and switched timelines, or astral projection situations. So I'm not sure what exactly happened to you, because it doesn't seem like you were doing anything in which you would have died and skipped timelines. And also, you were getting ready. I don't know why you would be astral projecting, but something definitely happened, and you definitely experienced it and like popped either back in time or to a different time, or who even knows? I'm not even really sure what I'm saying right now, but I hope you understand that I have heard of the popping sensation and it is related to those things. So wait, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you so much for sharing the story. This was very interesting. Hi, Matrix. Hi. I've been watching your stories for a while and love, love, love them. You are great at reading them. Thank you. You really feel like you're there. Thank you so much. I'm a big believer in the afterlife, paranormal, demons, and other realms, and all of the above. Thought I would share this story to see what you all think, so here goes. Just as an FYI, it's a little sad but has a nice ending. Well, I think so. Little backstory, I'm a big daddy's girl, and we were so close. He is my hero, best friend, and always know what I needed to hear, even if I didn't want to hear it. He was funny, kind, and caring, but also had rules and boundaries, which we all knew never to cross them. LOL. Back in 2009, I lost my dad due to lung cancer. I'm so sorry. I remember being brave for everyone else, but myself and my dad also knew when I needed a chat, or he would let me know not to take on everyone's issues. My sister was pregnant at the time, so I felt I had to stay strong for her as she was 8 months in and didn't want her to go into early labor if she knew how I was really coping. I kept all my pain and hurt inside for as long as I could, and my sister suggested that we talk to a medium. So a few weeks, maybe a month after his funeral, my sister and I went to a medium, and the lady told me that my dad and I were connected so deeply that we were together and father and daughter in a past life. I remember asking her if he is okay as I'm struggling and I needed to know. The lady told me that he is doing fine and with our dog Candy and is happy in his new place. That night I remember sleeping and the dream felt so real. The dream. My dad lived in a 2-story flat and you either have to buzz or use a key to get in, and he lives on the top floor. My dad and I were walking back from the local shop, like we always did. We got to the bottom of his flat and he buzzed us in, and we were both walking up the stairs to his flat. When we got to the top, right near his door, there's a small walkway that has a balcony and a banister that you can look out onto the car park through the massive windows in the stairwell. Suddenly, in front of me was a massive white room. I can still see my dad's flat door behind me, and I am standing in front of the balcony holding onto the bar. This white room looked like a bubble with faded edges, but felt peaceful, beautiful, and calm. There were loads of people, and I can hear a low roar of people talking, like a restaurant, but I couldn't see the people's faces. It was like their faces and bodies were blurred out. I am scanning the room to find my dad, and I see him standing in the middle of the room, waving at me. He looked happy and back to his normal self. He was saying, "Come on, come with me. Let me show you around," waving his hand. I said I couldn't as I'm not meant to be here. He looked a little sad but understood why I couldn't come and that we had to go our separate ways. Not sure why or how we knew, but we did. He floated up to where I was standing and he hugged me really tight and said, "I will always be with you and I love you lots, like jelly tots." He always said that when saying goodbye on the phone. He let go, and as he floated back into the beautiful white room, it started to fade away and I was back on the balcony alone, and my dad was no longer by my side. When I woke up, I had tears rolling down my face, but I felt a sense of relief that he was okay, happy, and no longer in pain. I feel this was his way of saying a final goodbye as he knew that I needed it. Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss, but what a beautiful story. Your dad was 100% absolutely saying goodbye to you. I love that he gave you a big hug and he said his little phrase to you. I'm so glad that you got to have that with your dad. That's very special. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hello, Auntie. Hi. I have loads of ghost and paranormal stories, all of which my family and close friends can confirm. I want to focus on my biggest ghost experience, which happened in my early 20s, now 34, before I moved from Poland to Ireland. I lived in an old building with a Jewish and Nazi history, common in larger Polish cities. Prior to this experience, my home was fine. Nothing unusual happened. However, things changed after my grandfather moved out. He had stayed with me for 3 months before moving into his own place. We hadn't had much contact over the years since he joined a different religion/cult, no one really ever knew what it was, and left our Catholic church, but I was never religious, so it didn't concern me. He was constantly praying all around the house and putting pictures of some weird-looking entities and candles while doing so. I didn't care as long as he cleaned it after. Once he left, my apartment felt like the main character in a paranormal activity movie. When I was alone, I could hear loud footsteps in the hallway on the hardwood floor. The TV would turn on and off by itself, and I often heard cupboard doors opening and shutting in the kitchen as if someone were frantically moving around. Once at night, before going to sleep, I got really cold, as if my window would be wide open and winter temperature from outside was now inside. And that's when I saw what I can only describe as black cloud in human shape appeared in front of me, bending towards me, and I couldn't see it, but I felt cold fingers on my cheek. The second that happened, I screamed, but weirdly not out loud, more like inside my head, and I hid like a 5-year-old under my blanket. After some time, I guess, I fell asleep. And yes, I know it's not like a blanket would protect me from a ghost, but it felt right in that moment. Despite not being a believer, I was hoping it was my dead family member visiting me, and I tried to ignore everything that happened for a long time. But it just got worse. Physically, I was affected too. I became skinny with dark circles under my eyes and was exhausted from lack of sleep. My boss and coworkers noticed and questioned my health. Some nights were so bad that I would leave my apartment at 2 or 3 a.m. and take a taxi to my grandmother's just to sleep. Every time I entered my home, I felt uncomfortable, not welcome, like I was being watched. About 6 months into this madness, my ex and family experienced things in my apartment too, while I was at work. My ex fled from my place, texting me that he wouldn't return and I could visit him instead. He had been sitting on the sofa watching TV, waiting for me to come back from my shift, when he felt a heavy pressure beside him. When he looked, the sofa was bent as if someone was sitting there. We also one night both heard loud pulling on the door handle as if someone were trying to open the door. I had double doors and the doorknob was on the outside door, making it impossible for anyone, like a neighbor, to shake the handle on the inside door. That's when I reached out for help from various sources, including the church, because I felt helpless and it's been months. They told me that since I wasn't a believer, I was the easiest target without protective faith. I was skeptical, but still took their advice. A priest gave me a cross that had been blessed during an exorcism mass in our town. I refused to go to that mass myself. He said if that didn't help, he could help me apply to the Vatican for an exorcist, as apparently you need their approval to proceed. He said he hopes it's the house, not me being possessed, as it's easier to get this thing out from my home than my body. To be honest, I shat myself, but considering other people in my circle were affected too, I was almost sure it was the place and not me. Long story short, I hung the cross in the hallway where the activity was strongest, along with another item my aunt had given me. That's another long, dead granny story. Almost immediately, everything went quiet and peaceful. I no longer felt scared or disturbed, and it finally felt like home again. After that experience, I can't say I'm 100% religious, but I definitely became a believer. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Sandra, oh my God, how terrifying. I am sorry. Did the priest really need to say that? Did the priest need to say that? Couldn't they just come and bless your place? They had to be like, hey, maybe you're possessed, wear this cross or come to an exorcism. Like, did we really have to do that? That's terrifying. I'm really glad that it wasn't you though, and it was your place. And I'm so glad that that worked and everything's okay right now. But like, what the heck was your grandpa doing? I don't understand what he was doing. Like, who was he praying to? What entity? Like, what was he doing that he clearly brought this stuff in? I'm interested to know everybody's opinions on this. Please let me know what you think in the comments. And thank you so much for sharing your story. This was crazy. Hi there. Hi. Here's a story that happened to me in elementary school. It's not scary, but it did end well. I'll randomly think about this at times, but never really thought about it as a glitch until today when I told my sister about it. In the 5th grade, I remember finding a black windbreaker jacket in my house. I'm not too sure where it came from, but I remember it being my size. I was excited about this because my parents always bought me girly clothes, pinks and purples, flower prints, lace and bows, etc. At this time, I absolutely hated the color pink and wanted more neutral, plain colors. But the rule was whatever my parents bought, I had to wear. I never found out where this jacket came from, whether it was left by a friend or a cousin or one of my brother's old jackets, but it became my everyday jacket to wear to school. It's important to note I wore this religiously. Since my mom usually made me wear shirts I didn't want to, I didn't mind as long as I had my handy jacket with me so I could zip it up and no one would ever see. But even on days I wore clothes that I did like, I would still keep my jacket on all day. It was like my security blanket and light enough that it didn't get too hot to keep on throughout school. Anyway, I emphasize that I wore this all day at school because I literally never took it off until I got home or on rare occasions when I would participate in gym. One morning, I was getting ready for school, and when it was time to leave, I went to put on my jacket, and I could not find it. I looked all over my house, tore apart my closet, and searched every possible place I could think of. It was nowhere to be found. I threw a bit of a tantrum and cried because my mom would not let me leave the house without a jacket, so I had to wear an alternative jacket, a hot pink one. Mom's choice. I remember feeling super uncomfortable and it being a bad start to my morning. I got to school and did not feel like eating my breakfast or playing at morning recess. I couldn't even take the jacket off because the shirt underneath was another pink nightmare, LOL. When morning recess was over and it was time to go to class, I went into my classroom and noticed in the back of the room, on the backpack and jacket hooks, there was a black jacket hanging there. No one ever left their jacket or backpacks on the hooks at the end of the day because the teacher always made sure we took our things home. I went over to the hooks and to my surprise, it was my jacket. I was happy about this, but it was odd because there was no possible way I would have left it at school, let alone even take it off to be forgotten. Not to mention, my mom would have absolutely noticed if I came home jacketless. She would have asked me about it. Nonetheless, this turned my whole day around at school, but it still puzzles me to this day on how that even happened. Possible glitch in the Matrix? I'm going to say that since you found this jacket randomly in your house and it was your size, and it made you feel so comfortable, I feel like maybe a protector, spirit, or an answer, somebody sent it to you, like put it in your house for you to find so that you would be more comfortable in your clothes, like to help you out. And then I don't know how it disappeared, but they definitely brought it back to you and put it in at school. At first I was thinking that maybe it was some sort of like entity that's protecting you or helping you out that put this jacket in your house in the first place because you just randomly found it in your house and it was your size and it made you feel so comfortable and so much better about yourself. So I feel like someone was helping you out, sending it to you in the first place. But then where did it go? Because maybe that same being or entity or spirit or whatever brought it back to you and made you find it at school after it wasn't at your house anymore. But where did it go from your house is my question. Like what? So I'm not really sure if I'm right about that. I'm not really sure what happened here. Or maybe that jacket literally did just like pop in from another timeline. Maybe there's, things disappear and reappear in and out of timelines all the time. So maybe this jacket like just was from a different timeline and popped over and you were wearing it and then it was gone and then it was back. I'm not really sure, but how cool is it that happened to you? Please let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing that story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi! I've been watching these stories for a long time and finally decided to submit my own. When I was about 9 years old, we had traveled to France to go on holiday as we did every year, and I had caught some kind of stomach flu. Not a problem as we were stopping in London for a convention before going home. I mean, to me, a stomach flu is always a problem, but that's okay. After a few days, I became sicker and sicker, so my mom decided to go find me a GP, doctor's surgery, to take me to. We didn't know London very well, but we thought with Google Maps and friendly Londoners, we should find one eventually. We looked up a few with no luck, but then stumbled across a GP sign saying down this way. As we walked down, it was a bustling, multi-story car park with one way in and one way out, and an elder black gentleman sitting on a bench. He was dressed in cream slacks with a patterned check shirt, a trench coat, and a farmer's cap. He was so kind and explained all the directions, wished I got better, and told us to have a lovely day. We went into the car park, and it just became eerie, like an abandoned building, as all the cars were gone. But we continued up to the GP office, not thinking anything of it. Until we got there, the whole place was abandoned. Windows smashed in, yellow curtains, and a sign saying closed. We were so confused, and we walked over to the side of the multi-story to see if the gentleman was there so we could ask what to do. And he simply wasn't. The bench was there, but not him. This was an elderly man, and there was a long road with a clear view to the entrance of it, with no other way in or out, as it was a dead end with a brick wall on either side. We would have at least seen him if he was walking up the road. We left soon after and realized the GP office was closed in the 80s. To this day, me and my mom don't understand what we saw, but I believe he was a spirit from that time to try to help us. Plus, weirdly, I got better pretty quickly after that with my own doctor when I got home, just saying. I should have needed more help than I'd had considering how ill I had been. Wonder what are your thoughts? Many thanks, Samantha. This was so crazy. I wonder if when you saw the sign saying like GP down this way, if the sign itself looked old or if it looked new, if it looked normal or like what happened. Because I wonder if you like saw it in some time and that man was there and then somehow I don't even know. I guess this could have been timelines crossing, or It just could have been an old friendly spirit that maybe used to sit there and help people, and maybe that's all he was doing. I'm not sure, but this was really cool. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie. Hi. I love your stories and have been debating sending this one for months, but here it goes. Sorry, it's a little long. We love the long ones. Over the years, as I've gotten older and the loss of friends and family becomes more common, I've noticed a trend where many of them come back to visit me in my dreams after their death. Some multiple times and some just once. Some come around right away and others take longer. A few things that all the visitation dreams have in common is I'm never lucid, and I never know in my dream the person is dead, and I can never recognize the place we are in the dream until a few months ago. Back in 2022, I lost my boyfriend to a battle with cancer. I was so upset because he never came to visit me. Of all the people, I felt like he should have been the one I saw right away. Fast forward to the summer of 2024, and he finally came. Except this time in my dreams, things were different. I found myself in dreamland, standing in the driveway of my parents' home. Everything was familiar, even our horse trailers were parked in the same spots as they are in real life. Everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. I was completely lucid, and I looked up to see my ex randomly walking up the driveway towards me. I took off running down the driveway towards him. It felt so real, I can still hear the gravel under my feet. I jumped up and leapt into his arms and hugged him so tight. I wrapped my arms around him and just held him. Then I put my hands on his face, and I swear I could feel the prickles of his stubbles from his beard under my hands. I put my forehead to his, I looked him right in the eyes, and I said, "How are you here?" I knew he was dead, but I never said it out loud, and somehow I just knew that he knew I knew. Being a lucid dreamer, already I was careful not to say too much, but then it's like the dream goes blank. I can remember everything in such detail that it still makes me cry typing this. But how do I not remember his explanation for being there in my dream? As suddenly as the dream cut off, it cuts back on like a light switch, and I'm back in the driveway in his arms. I let my legs go from around his waist, and they slide down to the ground, and I'm standing with my arms wrapped around him, now with my bare feet on the gravel and my head buried in his chest. The last thing I said to him was, "I wish you could stay longer, but you have to go visit them," referring to his 2 kids. He kissed me on the forehead, and I woke up like a jolt of lightning had run through me. I was crying so hard I was in hysterics and couldn't hardly catch my breath with my arms out in front of me, just like I had been hugging someone. My hair and pillow was soaked from tears. I never got the nerve to message his ex and ask her if the kids had said anything about a dream with him because I didn't want to sound crazy. But I sure hope they got to hug their dad and spend some time with him that night. Hopefully one night he'll come back and give me some answers I can actually remember. Oh man, I really wish you remembered what he said in the middle of that. I think that's really interesting that it cut out. I wonder if while you were actually having the dream, you experienced it and then it was like kind of cut out of your memory for some reason. Like maybe you're just not supposed to know. Maybe we're just not supposed to know some things yet, you know? But I love that you were able to have such a lucid dream where you remember all of it and you have that to take with you. You got to like hug him one last time. If he ever comes back, try to get that information and let us know, please. Thank you so much for sharing the story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Love your videos and wanted to share something that happened. It's not exactly a glitch in the Matrix, but it's something I think you might still be interested in. So last year in June, myself and my brother had the exact same dream on the same night about an uncle we hadn't spoken to in years. The dream was all of us at his house. We often did this growing up before we moved away. The whole family together, and the dream was really weird. We both dreamt that we knocked as usual with our parents, but once we were let in by our uncle, everybody apart from my uncle, my brother, and myself froze in place, and we just had a conversation with our uncle while everyone else was frozen around us. Neither of us can remember the conversation, but it felt like it went on for a really long time, and it was as if my uncle wouldn't acknowledge anybody was frozen and just kept talking. But we kept looking at each other confused because nobody was moving, and the only sound was our voices. I never told my brother, but I woke up thinking that was odd and just felt weird, but I put it down to just having a strange dream. When I saw my brother later that day, he told me about a strange dream he had last night, and it was the exact same dream. We both told our dad and asked him to call our uncle. Our aunt answered, and it turned out that our uncle had had a heart attack. the evening before, and he was in the hospital. My dad is convinced it's just a coincidence, but I'm not too sure. I would love to hear what you think. Thank you for taking the time to read my story. Have a lovely day. Did your uncle survive that, or did he pass away? That's my first question. This is another second dream in a row where I want to know, what were you talking about? What was said in this dream? He was obviously communicating with you guys in this dream. I wonder if anybody else, you know what I was going to say? I wonder if anyone else in your family had this dream, but I'm going to say they didn't because everybody else in the dream was frozen except for you and your brother. So he was definitely visiting you. It definitely wasn't a dream. I mean, it was a dream, but we travel different places in our dreams. So I feel like you guys were all meeting in a different plane. And there was a reason for that. And I wonder what the reason was because you don't remember the conversation. If he ended up passing away, I would say that he was saying goodbye. But then again, you also said that you hadn't talked to him in so many years. So I wonder why he would pick you two to collectively say goodbye to or collectively have a conversation with. This is very interesting to me. I'm not really sure. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi! I've been hooked on your TikTok since I found it, but I'd never truly witnessed a glitch of my own, just a lifetime of paranormal activity. Today, that all changed. We want to hear about the paranormal activity too. I live in Washington State, and if you live in the Seattle area, you can see Mount Rainier on clear days. I don't know if I pronounced that right, by the way. Many people say the mountain is out, but my girlfriend and I have a far more rated R version of our own, but we almost always remark on it. Heading south, the mountain is always in the distance and to the southeast. That's where we automatically look. But oh, not today. We rounded a curve and suddenly the mountain was to the southwest and so much closer. I kid you not. It was towering in the much nearer distance, clear as a bell. My girlfriend and I both started in with, what the fuck, how is she that close? She's in the wrong spot. She's always over there. As we went down the hill, we lost view because of the trees, but as we got closer to our turn, boom, she was back in her original position. My girlfriend and I both experienced this, and I know I'm not going crazy. I did have a smaller glitch recently, but it was so tiny that I've forgotten what it was beyond saying, that's weird, all confused. I was also alone, so there was no other way to verify. So I don't know how this happened, if we crossed into another timeline for just a moment and then immediately bounced back, but I don't think I'll ever forget this. Thank you for reading, Mary. This one is weird, and I have no idea. I think your best guess is maybe my best guess, but how freaking weird. That is, are you sure it was the same? I'm sure you're sure you lived there forever. I'm sure you know. That was just, I don't even know. I don't know. I really got nothing on this one, guys. Please let me know what you think. And thank you for sharing your story. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Love your videos. Here is my story. This happened in Brazil, where I'm from, a few years ago. My sister and I had to bring one of my father's old photograph machines to get it fixed in a repair shop, but we just had the street address, but I've never been there. Big cities in Brazil. We found the place, talked to a lovely older man, and a young girl who was calling him granddad was around the shop. He took the machine to get it repaired, and we left the place with a repair number to collect it. Another day, no issues. When we went back there a few days later, the street looked different, and there was no shop, just an old empty building. We looked around and there was a repair shop, but on the other side of the street, looking different and more modern. We were confused and thought that maybe we didn't remember well, as we've only been there once, so we went into the shop on the other side of the street. There was a younger man there, no sign of the older man or the girl. We asked about the photograph machine we needed back and talked about our confusion, thinking the shop was on the other side of the street, the encounter with the older man who helped us, and the girl. He just got so serious and said, "You saw them too." He explained that a few people had similar experiences, that his grandfather had a repair shop on the other side of the street. He inherited the shop but had a chance to move it to the more modern building on the other side of the street 10 years earlier. He explained that his grandfather and his sister died in a car accident many years back, and she used to love spending time with him on his repair shop. The man looked for our photograph machine in his shop and found it, all in working order, but he never did any of the work on it himself. He didn't even know it was there. He didn't want to charge us, so we left, confused and stunned. We have no idea where we went that day, who we saw, and how the machine got fixed. We both still remember to this day very clearly the place, the older man, and the little girl. It looks like he is still helping people somehow. Sending much love, Josie.
Okay, that was a crazy good one. I loved that one. How freaking cool that you went into his shop, even though it didn't exist at the time, and he helped you and you saw him and you saw the girl. I wonder, did you I don't even know. A lot of these have me stumped today. I'm going back and forth in my head. Was it did you go through a time portal and you went into his shop, but back in the day, or was it just everything was ghost stuff and then ghost grandpa got the thing back to the other shop? I don't know, but this is really freaking cool. And the fact that it's happened to other people too is so cool that he's still hanging around. I hope he's happy and he's not a stuck spirit and wants to leave. I hope he knows he's dead. That just crossed my mind too. But what a cool story. Thank you so much. Please hold on. You guys got to let me know what you think in the comments because I keep getting stumped by these. I don't know. They're great though. Thank you so much for sharing. How cool.
Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. My name is Allie. I'm from the UK, so some terminology may be different. Sorry if it confuses things. I found you on Instagram a couple of months ago, and now I watch/listen to you on YouTube, and let me tell you, I am hooked. I have 4 stories for you. I am so glad to finally have a safe space to share them and maybe get some answers. Sorry if I have rambled or not made any sense. There was so much to get from my mind to paper. I have separated and named them, but feel free to rename. No, friend, we're going to just keep them. Okay, we got 4 stories in this one. We got 1, the girl in my dreams. 2, strong feelings. 3, the thing in my ceiling. And 4, Michael? Trigger warning for mention of childhood abuse, death, mention of suicidal thoughts as a child, and the death of a child. The girl in my dreams. Between the ages of around 6 and 16, I had a recurring dream of a little girl in a blue dress with corkscrew mousy blonde hair that stopped at her shoulders. I wouldn't have the dream every night, but when it did happen, it was always the same apart from one thing. Sometimes she wouldn't have any eyes. Okay, that's creepy. The dream starts with her waking me up by tapping my arm and asking me, "You want to come play? Come play with me." We would climb out my bedroom window, run through the back garden, and then into some fields. My garden never backed onto fields in the real world, only in dream world. She was always slightly ahead of me, looking back every now and then and giggling like little kids do. Most of the time, she had beautiful blue eyes, but sometimes she would look back at me and she just had dark holes instead of eyes. Not black eyes, just dark/black holes. The time she had no eyes, there would be a merry-go-round at the edge of the field. We'd be running towards it. It would be bright with festoon lights and already spinning with the horses going up and down. I always stopped before we got to it. She looked disappointed when I said I had to go home, and then I would wake up. I was abused physically, mentally, and emotionally from 2 years old until I was 17 by my stepdad. He gave me my first panic attack when I was 6. It was when I was 6 or 7 when I started hoping I would die in my sleep to escape the pain that he caused. Could this be why I started to see her in my dreams? I have never seen her or felt her while awake and never felt afraid of her, only curious. Oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you and you felt that way. This is really weird though. I have no idea why she would have no eyes sometimes. And when she had no eyes, you were running towards this merry-go-round. I wonder, what did that merry-go-round symbolize? And you would never go with her. I'm glad that you were never scared of her, but the fact that she sometimes had no eyes is kind of freaking me out. The only thing that I can think of is because you said that sometimes you hoped that you would not be alive anymore in your sleep to escape the pain. So maybe this person was not a reaper, but maybe this being or this little girl represented, when she had no eyes, maybe that's when you were having more of those thoughts, even subconsciously. And she was taking you to the merry-go-round was you escaping the world to maybe what you thought would be a happier, better place because of what you were going through. But you never decided to do that. So then you wouldn't go, you would stop, and then you would wake up. That's the only thing I could think of with that one. Let me know what you guys think about this one. Let's move on to the next story. Strong feelings. Sometimes I get hit with this overwhelming sadness and the need to cry hard with no understanding as to why. A few days later, I would find out that a family member had passed away that same day I'd had the feelings. The first time I remember it happening is when I was 7. A few days later, my mom sat me down to tell me that my great Nana, my mom's mom, passed away. It happened the day after my 15th birthday, too. I could not stop crying and felt like my world was collapsing emotionally. I was away with sea cadets on a training ship called TS Royalist. More on this trip later. When I got home, my mom and stepdad took me out for dinner. Mom started to talk to my stepdad about a funeral. I asked her what she was talking about, and she told me that my great-granddad, my mom's dad's dad, had died the day after my birthday. Apart from the sadness, I felt peace with his death because the last time I ever saw him, I gave him the biggest hug, and the last thing I ever said to him was, "I love you." He was so miserable in that care home and was so tired, he was ready to go. On the week away with the cadets, yes, I know, I'm so cool, haha, on TS Royalist, we were the ship's crew. Part of that was climbing up one of the masts to fold the sails. I only did this once because I had such an intense gut feeling someone was going to die on one of those sails. I even said to one of the staff/adults while climbing that someone could die doing this, and he replied, only if they unclip their harness, as a "no one is that crazy" joke. 7 years later, a 14-year-old boy unclipped his harness to help another person. He slipped, fell, and unfortunately died from his injuries. It was in the news. It made me feel sick for such a long time after finding out. The overwhelming sadness happened again with my great uncle. Yes, I got to meet a lot of the greats. My family refuses to die, not that I'm complaining. I also get the feeling, but not as strongly when someone in the family gets taken to the hospital. There have been a few times where I know something will happen to my kids. I was in a shop once and saw plasters while waiting in the queue to pay. I thought to myself, oh, I should probably buy some. My oldest is bound to need one soon. Not even 10 minutes later, I got an email from the school to say that he's fallen over, but has been cleaned up, got a plaster, and is fine. Hold on, what's a plaster in your language? Okay, I looked it up. Plaster is a Band-Aid. That's what I thought. I would know they were sick before they got sick. Countless times I've taken them to A&E or the doctors, and I've been told they are fine, only to take them back the next day, and they're shocked to see an ear/throat infection has developed. It's fun to say I told you so to the professionals. Why does this happen? If it's some sort of gift I'm not sure I wanted, it's freaky. You're having some premonitions. You're having premonitions that seem like they're specifically tied to your family members. I think it's kind of cool, but I also understand why you wouldn't really want it. I wonder if there's a way for you to work on it and to expand it to more than just your family to potentially help other people. But you're definitely really in tune in that way. Okay, next one of their stories. The thing in the ceiling. My partner and I used to live in a big house that was converted into around 7 flats. It was built in 1894. We lived on the second floor and had an attic that I always found creepy. It was a small 1-bedroom flat, but the perfect first home for a young couple. I hated being there by myself. I felt watched and like I was invading someone else's space. When we had our first baby, he would look and stare up at this one corner of our lounge. Sometimes he would look like he was watching someone crawl across the ceiling. When I looked up and said, "He's my baby, you need to leave him alone," he would stop looking and go back to playing as if nothing had happened. That would happen a couple of times a week. It got worse when we had my second baby, another boy. He was a couple of months old and my youngest was 2 years old. I was on the phone to my mom when both babies suddenly looked up at that same corner and started crying. They were terrified of something I could not see. My mom could hear them, so I told her about the corner and the weird stuff when they started grabbing at me and screaming louder. I don't know where I got the balls from because I do not do confrontation, but I glared at the corner and I sternly and loudly shouted, "Leave them alone!" The boys went quiet and just cuddled me, hiding their faces, one in my leg and one in my shoulder. My mom is normally a skeptic, but fully believes something evil was wanting my babies that day. We moved when my second baby was 4 months old. I'm so glad you moved and you got out of there. There was definitely something there. Babies and young children can see into the veil way easier than us. And a lot of times that goes away as they get older, but they were definitely seeing something. And I really love that you didn't just ignore them or not even think that something was there, that you actually used your words, which are powerful, and you told that thing to go away. And I'm also glad that you moved. Okay, last one of their stories is called Michael. I'll start by explaining where I live. There's a group of 30 or so little bungalows where elderly people who were independent but needed to have people check up on them lived. There used to be a warden who went around daily to check on all of them. There was also the main building, which was a nursing home for the elderly who needed round-the-clock care. The bungalows are still there with older people living in them, but there is no warden. The nursing home, which is now 6 flats. We managed to get a place because my partner was one of the gardeners. We moved into the smallest flat. We'll call this flat 1. A couple of years later, we moved along the hallway to a bigger one with an extra bedroom. We'll call this one flat 2. And then we moved again 2 years later because this flat had much better layout and is connected to a small courtyard that no one else uses. So now it's our garden. We'll call this one flat 3. In flat 1, my oldest used to see a man in the second flat that we lived. He was still very young, 3 to 4 years old, so still had trouble pronouncing some words. He kept saying the man's name was Magul. My partner spoke to a neighbor about it. She said that when the building we live in was a nursing home, there was a man called Michael who was lovely, smoked, relevant I promise, and refused to get out of bed. The day they finally managed to get him up out of bed and dressed, he was rushed to the hospital and died. My son was never afraid of Michael and said that they just spoke a little bit. Until the night my kids were in bed and my partner was out, so I was on my own in the lounge, my oldest came to me to say that Michael wanted to keep talking, but he was sleepy. I put him back to bed, walked out of the room, shut the door, and spoke to Michael. I couldn't see him or anything, but I thought it's worth a shot, right? I thanked him for not scaring the children and said I understand that he may just have wanted to talk to them, but it's time to leave now because he is disturbing my son's sleep. My son hasn't spoken to Michael since, but I know he's around because I've heard a man talk to me, and I smell cigarette smoke really strongly. I've had this in all 3 flats. When we moved from flat 1 to 2, I was cleaning the carpets before moving our stuff in when I heard a man shout, "Stop!" He didn't sound angry, he sounded fed up, like when someone is hoovering and keeps turning it off and on again and you think, for goodness sake, make your mind up. I said out loud, "I guess you're right, I've been at this a long time and it's getting late. I'll come back tomorrow." A few days later, I was packing boxes into the upstairs cupboard while my mom and partner were sorting boxes and the kids were downstairs. I was struggling with a heavy box when I heard someone walk up the stairs into the room and then a man say, "You want some help with that?" I replied, "Yes, please," thinking it was my partner because it was that clear. I went downstairs and asked my partner why he would offer to help and then come back down without helping. They both looked at me like I had grown another head in front of them. Neither of them had left the kitchen and neither of them had called out to me. Now we've been in flat 3 for 2 years and I only see white silhouettes of people walking out of the corner of my eye. They don't notice me, so I pretend to not notice them. I sometimes smell cigar smoke or cigarette smoke for a few seconds, then it's gone, and almost every night I can hear voices of a man and a woman talking. I can't hear what they are saying, but it's coming from the lounge, which used to be a part of the nursing home lounge. I'm pretty sure it's just past energy or memories repeating themselves and not ghosts having a catch-up each night. It isn't scary, it's just there. I have other stories too, but I've rambled on far long enough now. The end. I love you and your glitches. We love you too. I wonder if you're having separate entities in all of these flats or if that first man is following you. I mean, who knows, right? Because it did used to be a nursing home and clearly so many people pass away in nursing homes. So there could be so many spirits there. And as long as it's not bothering anybody and you could keep it in check, I think that's actually pretty cool and very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing all of your stories. That concludes our creepy compilation for today. If you like these kind of videos, there will be more, so make sure you hit that follow button and turn on notifications. But if you want to keep it going right now, you can check out this video or this playlist.